All right. Hey there, folks. Since book tour and conventions are still on a somewhat staggered return, I figured I'd bring book tour to you. So welcome to Russ's Rockin' Rollercoaster Season 7, Intriguing Interviews with Creative Minds. Now, I'm always up for a good case of murder, particularly on tropical islands. So please welcome tonight's guest, Al Tucher. Al is the creator of his recurring character, prostitute Diana Andrews, who has appeared in more than 100 hard-boiled stories in venues including the Best American Mystery Stories of 2010. Al recently launched a second series set on the Big Island of Hawaii, and Al is also the current president of the Mystery Writers of America's New York chapter. Welcome, Al.
Thanks, Russ. Thanks for having me.
All right. So just a quick heads up to the folks at home. Feel free to send me notes or questions you have for me or Al in the chat box during the show, and we'll get to a few at the end. All right, Al, as we always do, we're going to start at the beginning. So where were you born? Where'd you grow up?
I was born on Staten Island, New York. We moved to New Jersey when I was 2, and we've been here ever since, or I've been here ever since.
So it's funny. My wife has a similar type of thing. She was born in Brooklyn, moved to New Jersey when she was about 2. She's a Jersey girl, but technically, you're born in New York. Do you consider yourself a New Yorker or a Jersey boy?
I'm a Jersey guy, and for the record, Jersey girls are the best.
Mm-hmm. I married a good one. All right. So, where in New Jersey?
We've been all around central New Jersey, South Plainfield, Denellen, Bridgewater Township. Then I went to college in Princeton and then have lived in Union County since then. All
right, so let's go. You basically just went through like 9 questions in 4 seconds. So we're going to go back. So we're going to go back to the beginning. All right. Okay. So you moved from Staten Island to New Jersey. So at that time, what were your folks? Were they from Staten Island?
They were born and raised in Staten Island, and my dad was a music teacher, and he started his teaching career in Newark High School in Staten Island, but then he started looking for another job, and his first job was in South Plainfield.
So so when you grew up, what was it? Just you? Do you have brothers, sisters?
I'm the eldest of 5.
5. So brothers, sisters, what's the lineup?
It's me, then my sister Andy, brother Rob, sister Carol, and brother Fred.
All right. Well, 3 boys, 2 girls, the oldest of 5, pack leader. So your dad, so he was a music teacher. So did he want to be, was he a concert musician? Did he want that to be his life? Or did he always think, I'll be a music teacher? Like, how did that play out?
The story he tells is that he came back from the war and on the GI Bill enrolled in NYU, and he wanted to major in music, but the department was already full, and somebody advised him just go down the hall to music ed. You take most of the same courses, but they have room. And so he said a couple of years later, he was standing in front of a class and wondering, how did this happen?
So your dad, was he in the Army?
He was in the Navy. He was about as young as a veteran could be. And as a matter of fact, he was still in pre-flight training when the war ended.
So this is World War II?
World War II, yeah.
So did he actually see any active combat himself?
No, he did not. He was still in training. It was just getting to the end of it when the war ended.
So when he was in training, was he stateside, or had he already been shipped overseas?
He was mostly in the South, Athens, Georgia, Pensacola, Florida, a little bit.
Right. So were your parents married before he got drafted? Was he drafted? Did he enlist?
He enlisted. No, they were very young. They met after the war. I think somebody introduced them on the ferry boat, the Staten Island ferry.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh wow, there you go. That's sort of like a romantic New York story.
It is.
You can smell the harbor and the boiled hot dogs and love blooms. So all right, so they started off in Staten Island, moved to New Jersey. So you have 5 brothers and sisters. what's the age
Four.
difference? Four. Sorry, you're oldest of five. What's the difference in ages between you guys?
Roughly every 2 years.
Wow. Wow, your parents must have enjoyed each other's company.
My mom said there was no margin for error. Yeah, that was her cryptic take on it.
Wow, I mean that's a lot of years in diapers. Wow. So did your, it's funny, generationally things have changed. Was your dad a diaper changer?
Yeah, he was very involved. There was nothing he would rather do than take care of us. There's no question about that.
Oh, that's nice. So did you and your brothers and sisters at that time, did you guys get along?
Yeah. We squabble, but yeah, basically we still do.
Okay. Squabble or get along?
Both.
Of course. Fair enough. All right. So you have a music teacher as a dad. Was he proficient at anything?
Well, he was a pianist, but he was a conductor. His favorite thing was conducting the choir.
Oh, okay. So he played piano. Did he play, even modestly play other instruments, or was he just a piano guy?
No, piano.
Okay. So when you guys were growing up, what were you into? Like, what was your thing?
I was really passionate about baseball and utterly devoid of talent, which was a stressful combination at times.
Sure was. So were you a Brooklyn Dodgers fan or a Yankees fan?
At the time, I was a Cleveland Indians fan.
Cleveland. How did that happen?
And I can tell you exactly how it happened.
All right.
I was watching a game. This would have been probably 1961. I was just getting interested in baseball. I was watching the Yankees in Cleveland. After 8.5 innings in this particular game, the Yankees were up 8-0, and the Indians won the game in the bottom of the ninth.
Wow.
Including a walk-off homer, the first I ever saw and the last for quite a while. And I remember thinking, this is pretty good.
Who hit the homer? Do you remember?
That I don't remember. My man was Tito Francona. It might have been him.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So you became, wow, there probably weren't too many Cleveland Indians fans, I'm assuming, like amongst your pals. So did you have a lot? So were your friends into that? Were they baseball? I'm a huge baseball guy myself. Were they into baseball too?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we were living in Dunellen at the time, and if you didn't play baseball, you probably spent the summer by yourself. So you kind of had to.
Right. So did they bust your balls about being an Indians fan?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm trying to remember some of my history. I can't remember. Was that pre or post? Was that during the Feller years, or was he before that? I can't remember.
Probably after.
After, yeah. I'm losing track. My memory's a little hazy on the.
I'm
pretty good. I'm pretty good on baseball history, but I can't remember it all. All right. So fair enough. So you played baseball. So your dad was a music teacher. Did that rub off on you?
Yeah, this is jumping ahead, but I actually pursued an operatic singing career.
Right. Well, we'll get to that. So I'm talking about in your early years, did you play music? Did you play music? Did you play the piano too? Was there a piano in your house?
He tried to teach us piano, but that didn't take. I didn't really. I wasn't very talented at that. I also played the oboe with a singular lack of success.
Wow. You figure like if you're going to try like the oboe, you should at least be good at it, right?
Yeah, well, I didn't last long at it.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. So you and your buddies basically, you played baseball. As a transplanted New Yorker myself, I was born and raised in New York. I lived all over, and then I've been in New Jersey for 8-9 years. So I'm very well aware of the New York, New Jersey rivalry. And when I was a kid, it was very intense. You know, if you were from New York, New Jersey was just like the ugly stepsister. What was that like? Was there like that from the New Jersey side? Was there like an animosity towards New York? Was it like an imposter syndrome? Like what was it like?
Most kids, well, you know, like in my formative years, which is what I would call our Ellen years, 1960 to 67, New York was barely on the radar. I remember a teacher, probably third grade, maybe fourth, asking, who's been to Florida? And almost all the hands went up. Who's been to New York City? Mine and one other kid.
Really?
It wasn't even on the radar.
Really? That's interesting. Huh,
Yeah, it's strange.
Oh, so close and yet so far, I guess.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. So having been basically, you know, you've been in New Jersey for most of your life, what do you think is one of the biggest misconceptions about New Jersey?
Biggest misconceptions. Well, you know, look at the Sopranos, the mafia everywhere. You know, they're here, but they're not everywhere.
And you know this how? I'm just messing with you. So speaking of which, so when you're a kid, so you had some musical influence in your life. You had baseball for sure. But what else were you a reader as a kid?
I was a reader, very much. Yeah.
What was your thing?
Really, I would pick up anything, but I discovered science fiction pretty early, and I read a lot of that from elementary school all the way into high school.
Who were your favorite authors back then?
Larry Niven, Heinlein. Let's see. Geez, you know, my memory's even hazy on who they were at the time. A.E. Van Vogt. And if I really sat down and thought about it, I could come up with some more.
Were there any particular books that really stuck, that really just kind of, you know, were like burned on your brain?
Yeah, I was just thinking the other day about Orphans of the Sky by Heinlein, which is the one about the interstellar voyage where which was intended to take several generations, and there was a mutiny, and let me think what happened. Basically the civilization aboard collapsed, and people didn't even remember what they were doing out there, and it was really absorbing to me at the time.
Did were you just sort of like a sci-fi guy? Did you read other things, or was that kind of your
really mostly sci-fi? Now that I think of it, I remember also liking a humorist named oh boy, I just went blank. It'll come to me. But I was about to make the point that he's pretty much disappeared.
Well, these writers really made an impression on you.
Yeah, this happens to me more and more with names. It's sad.
All right, fair enough. So, all right, so you played baseball, you read science fiction. So did your buddies played baseball? Were they readers too? Did you have like a
not so much? No,
that was your own thing.
At least we never talked about it.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. So at a certain, turns out a little bit later, shifting ahead, you had a long career as a librarian.
I did.
So talk to me about that.
Well, it was like so many things. It was kind of an accident to begin with. I graduated from college in 1975, which was not a good year to be hitting the job market. It was a really bad year. I was practically the only one in my class who wasn't either pre-med or pre-law. Those were the tickets at the time. I knew I didn't want to do either of them, but that was a problem. And I knocked around for quite a few months after graduation and finally ended up in a non-professional library job back at my college. And I said, okay, surrender to the inevitable. And I went and got the MLS degree. And that launched my career. It turned out to be a good choice, a good fit for me.
And I'm sorry, MLS, that's what?
Master of Library Science. That's what they called it at the time. I think it's got something to do with library and information science now. I'm not sure.
So libraries in general are certainly not thought of or utilized the way they were in previous generations, mostly because of the internet. You know, a lot of people went to libraries to do research, and you can just kind of Google things now. But what are some misconceptions about, librarians? There's sort of this you have this idea of what a librarian is, kind of as a person, and what a librarian does. Tell me how much of it is right, and tell me how much of it is not.
Well, the severe person who goes shh is really not it. Libraries are not tremendously quiet places these days. In fact, we have to set aside certain areas to enforce quiet for people who want it. We did a lot. I'm retired now, but we did a lot of things like hosting meetings. New libraries need meeting space probably more than anything else.
Right.
Computer access. A lot of people, the Newark Public Library had 48 public access computers that were in constant use because people needed the internet, and a lot of people, especially in a city like Newark, a lot of people can't get online except at the library.
As a librarian itself, though, so you have this role and you did it for many, many years. So what was that like? I mean, what's your, not that many people honestly have that particular job. It's not like they're not, we're not overrun by librarians necessarily. So
we're everywhere. You might be surprised.
I probably would be. That's why I'm asking. Talk to me about it.
Well, Newark is the biggest public library in the state. When I started, we had 10 branches. In 1986, we had 10 branches and 250 people, which is probably too many. By the time I retired, we were down to under 100 and 7 branches for budgetary reasons mostly. I started out as a cataloger, which meant I didn't deal with the public at all. By the end of my career, I was doing some of everything, including reference work, which that changed a lot over my career. When I started, we were still using reference books,
right,
running to the shelf. I think this will be in here, or I think it'll be in there. Now, the first thing we do is Google. We may end up in a reference book, but the first thing is an online search.
So did you like being a librarian?
Basically, yeah. It also gave me my particular job at Newark gave me a fair amount of schedule flexibility for other things I was doing on the outside. So, and that's where we might get into the singing career,
which we will. But I'm not done with you yet.
Okay.
Don't worry. I told you you're on the hot seat. I'm going to make you sweat. So in Newark, I've been, I go in and out of Newark for business reasons from time to time. And Newark today is certainly, for Newark in a way was sort of like, it's sort of like the Bronx of New York. Forever they were saying, it's coming, it's the revitalization is coming, and it never came. But it's actually finally here. It's not all the way there, but it's much farther along than at any point probably in recent history.
I would agree with that, yeah.
What was Newark like then?
Well, I started my public library career in East Orange, but I was taking the bus through Newark to get there. So I saw a lot of it. I started that in 1979. And it was like going through the center of the city was like Rome in medieval times. lot of people scurrying around the ruins, and just very discouraging place. And about the revitalization, I think you nailed it. For so many years, every time it looked as if Newark was the next in line to take off and have a renaissance, that was when the economy ran out of gas for a while.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I work in the real estate business, so I follow it fairly closely, and I know a bunch of companies that are, putting money into Newark, and I've been down there, and you kind of see it's coming along. But I hadn't realized. I mean, was it really that bad? When it was at its worst, was Newark really just like, wow, this is like a scary place to be? Was it that bad?
Yeah, it was. I never had a real problem, but I always watched my back.
All right. So, okay. So you bust through a very scary place for a long time, but you also had time to do other things. So talk to me about your opera singing.
I just, during college, I probably should have majored in music, but I didn't. I was always studying voice on the side. I was getting involved in small opera companies. I was always doing something, but the hard part is getting paid.
Yes, well,
which is something an author might recognize. Getting paid is the hard part.
When did you first realize that maybe you had the pipes to at least give it a shot?
Probably in high school. I was in all-state chorus 2 years in a row. I thought I was a bass at that time, but voice kind of, as I learned how to use it, it climbed until in the end, I was singing or aspiring to Wagnerian tenor roles. And in 1992, that was the pinnacle of my career. I did what thousands of American singers had done ever since World War II, or the early 50s anyway. And I went to Germany to audition around to all the state-supported theaters there.
Really? What was that like?
That was weird. It was, unfortunately, 1992 was the year they didn't need us anymore. We basically got screwed by the end of communism. There are all these excellent Eastern singers who were now free to come West. And all of a sudden they said, thanks, Yank, but no.
So you go all the way over to Germany, like, all right, I'm finally going to get my big break. And they say, party's over.
Yeah, it came as kind of a surprise to them too. The process of reunification took several years, and they didn't know exactly how it would go.
Right.
But the Eastern singers came West. Many of the Eastern theaters were closed down because reunification was so expensive, and so the end result was much less work for Americans. I mean, it's not like nobody will ever get a job there, but it's much less likely now.
So all right, so you go to Germany, you sort of get the close but no cigar. Did you continue to sing back here in the States?
I hung on for another couple of years. My line in the sand, I auditioned for the Metropolitan Opera Chorus in 1995. And when that didn't happen, I said, okay, I gave it my shot. 20 years.
All right.
And started looking for something else.
Okay. So of all the whatever performances you did, do you have sort of like a highlight performance, one that you say, now that was a good one?
One performance. But I did it. My very first tenor role was in an opera with a small company. It's called Le Astuzie Femminili, The Clever Women by Domenico Cimarosa. And it was my first tenor lead. Oh. And I had my very own soprano feud.
Ooh, look at you with your harem. Oh, you were the big man on campus for 10 minutes, huh?
Meaning that I had a very difficult soprano lead to deal with, and
How'd that go?
it was stressful. I was glad when that part of it was over.
Good, stressful how?
Well, you want to do the best you can on stage, but somebody's always kind of undermining me, undercutting me.
How? Like how?
Oh geez. Well, just complaining about everything I did.
So this is sort of behind the scenes, or like was she like causing trouble during performances?
Not during performances, no, but complaining to the director, complaining to the conductor.
Ooh, palace intrigue. Ooh,
yeah, it's opera has a reputation for that, and it's earned.
Wow. So there were drama queens in the opera.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. Huh. So did you come out victorious, or did she wind up slitting your throat?
I guess I came out victorious because we did good performances. She didn't manage to mess that up. So yeah, I guess I won.
All right, there you go. All right, so we've talked about how you got to this point. Now let's transition. So tell me when you first got serious about writing.
Writing. Okay, I quit the music business in 1995, and for about 5 years, basically, I went to work and went home, and I said, this has to stop. I even thought about doing something drastic like going to law school. I'm glad I did not do that. And then in the summer of 2000, I was suddenly single and really looking for something. And I came across a little flyer from the Union County College, which mentioned a fiction writing class. And I said, okay, I'll do that. I actually thought that I might work on something that I'd had an idea. I'd even made a little start on it, a historical novel set in early medieval Rome. But I never got around to that because, well, I wrote my first Diana story in that class.
All right, so let's start there. So I've got lots of questions about this. So you've now written more than 100 stories featuring Diana Andrews, who is your recurring character, who's a prostitute. Now, I don't want to be indelicate, but is there anything you want to tell us about your hooker fixation?
Well, it started in just this one short story.
Oh, no, we know how it started.
Yeah. Okay.
Just kidding.
You want to know what fascinates me about the?
Of course. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, of course, it's about sex. That's an eternally absorbing topic. But for somebody with a taste for noir crime fiction, it's a natural. What fascinates me is about the prostitution transaction is the deception and self-deception on both sides. The men who buy sex have to convince themselves that they're getting their money's worth when they pay a couple of $100 or more for a very ephemeral experience in the absence of any, real connection to the other person. The women who sell have to convince themselves that they know men and can never be fooled, can never end up behind closed doors with the wrong man. And I find this, this plays out. Well, it's played out in 100 stories. It's played out I have 6 novels, Diana novels, only one of which is out. And probably my retirement project is probably going to be self-publishing the rest of them. So
that's a lot. That's a lot of hooker stories. So I have to ask you. I mean, it seems fairly obvious, but you can share. It's a safe space. So did you do any field research to nuance the character at all?
I did. I found a young woman in Diana's line of work to talk to about it.
Wait. I mean, talk or talk?
Talk. Yeah.
Okay. Just kidding.
And I thought I might meet with her once. I paid her rate. because her time was her time.
Right.
And I ended up over a period of about 3 years, I ended up meeting with her maybe a dozen times because she gave me such incredible material that I'm still living off it.
Right.
I also know how to think about the business. If I get an idea, I know right away, yeah, that works, or no, it doesn't work.
So you're saying you have an instinct for telling prostitute stories. I got to tell you, Al, we're learning, you come across as being sort of like this very genteel kind of guy, but then the underbelly reveals itself. That's what we do here on the show. We expose
can't deny it.
We expose the underbelly. That's what we're all about. All right, just a quick interlude for the folks who came in a little late. If you have any questions or comments for Al or me, send them in the chat box, and we'll get to a few at the end. All right, so I mean, like all jokes aside, 100 stories with one character is quite a bit, and impressive, and in addition, having multiple novels. So having a character, putting what she does to make her money, make her way in the world, just aside for a moment, how do you find yourself inspired and motivated to keep coming? I mean, if you said, I wrote 10 stories, a dozen stories, you could say, okay, wow, that's a lot. Maybe I got a few more in me, but 100 is a lot of stories. So there must be some, aside from the, how she makes her way, there must be more to it than that, to sort of keep mining that same character so often. What is it about this particular character that, that keeps pulling you back in?
Well, I can send her anywhere. All kinds of people hire prostitutes. She can, I can send her anywhere. She can meet anybody. She also has a character arc. In the course of my series of novels, she gets out of the business. She becomes a professional bodyguard, and ultimately the president of the company that hired her as a bodyguard. But she always has this history, and sometimes it comes back to bite her. Sometimes it gives her unique insights into things. She has there's a detective named Tillotson who calls on her frequently because he knows she sees things, she hears things, and she has a unique take that can often help him.
Right. Fair enough. I mean, right. She's got it just by the nature of the way she wanders through life. She's just going to see things and know people and kind of observe she's the, as I like to say, she's the eyes. We all need eyes and spies. And that's kind of right. All right. Wow. So let me ask you. So since obviously you've spent a lot of time with this character, I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway, as I often do. Ultimately, are you more interested in telling a good mystery or focusing on character?
Focusing on character. Some of the stories are mysteries, whodunits, but more of them are straight crime fiction or even literary fiction. I'm starting to branch out into magazines that are more literary, with my short fiction. And I get a lot more rejections that way. In fact, right now I'm writing the longest unbroken rejection string of my career.
Oof.
Which,
all right, you'll break it. You'll break it. Just keep. Look. If Diana can, if you could do 100 stories with one character, I think you got a little more in you.
Yeah.
All right. So like me, but longer than me, you've been a member of the Mystery Writers of America for several years, and now you're the president of the New York chapter. So as president, I have to ask, what are you doing about the war in Ukraine, high gas prices, gun violence, and January 6th?
Give me a week. I'll take care of it.
All right. I'm just kidding. All right. So for those unfamiliar, why don't you tell us a little bit about MWA, how the chapter in New York is going, and what, if any, events we should be keeping an eye out for?
Well, the big news, of course, has been the pandemic, as it has been for practically everything. And I want to shout out to my predecessor, as my immediate predecessor as president, Erica Obi, whose entire presidency was taken up by the pandemic. She took office, and a month later it hit, and she had to figure out ways to keep the chapter alive, interesting, and keep people involved. Well, look where we are. Zoom had a lot to do with it. And even as we come out of the pandemic, we're going to keep using Zoom. We're going to try to do more hybrid events. We had a reading, a public reading at the KGB bar in Manhattan last night, which was in person, but also we also Zoomed it for a remote audience. And we plan to do more of that.
Great. So why don't you just, again, so let's just go back just a little bit. So, because not everyone may, I mean, everyone who's watching here, they may know MWA, they may not. So just quick overview, what is the MWA?
Well, it's a national organization with, I think about, I forget the last tally. It's well over 2,000 members nationwide. New York chapter is probably the biggest in terms of membership, followed by the Southern California chapter. And what we do is we promote the writing, reading, and publishing of mystery crime fiction and support people who do it. We, one of the things I'm doing in as a chapter president, that makes me also a member of the national board. And one of my assignments is vetting contracts from publishers who want to earn approved status from MWA, meaning that we say to our members, yeah, this publisher is safe to work with. You always have to keep your eyes open, but basically, we think they treat their authors fairly. The chapter holds monthly meetings on topics of interest to writers. It can be an expert speaking on forensics or police procedure or anything like that, or it can be a writing topic, character, plot, things like that.
Right. All right. Sounds good. And is there any other? So I know there's a couple of events coming up over the next couple months.
The next two events are public readings where we gather, we drink, we listen to people read from published work or works in progress, anything they want to share with us. The next one is actually not a bar setting. It's going to be in Asbury Park, New Jersey, at the Asbury Book Co-op, which is basically a bookstore, although it's run on a nonprofit basis. And we will be reading in person, but we'll also be Zooming that. And then in August, we'll be back at KGB.
All right.
For another reading event. At that one, a fair amount of drinking goes on.
Indeed, it does. I've been to.
We are writers.
Yes, we are. All right. Now that was great, but now it's time for a special segment where we spin the wheel. On the wheel are 7 possible categories. Wherever it lands is what you get. And the categories are Play It Again, Sam, Stranger in a Strange Land, Cold Case, Fear of Flying, Music Lover, Desperately Dreaming Dexter, and everyone's new favorite, Kick 'Em in the Junk. All right, I'm going to spin the wheel. You ready? Now, you there?
Am I here? Yeah.
There you go. Okay. Your jaw was open, so I didn't know if you froze.
Well, I did, but it was not technical in nature.
All right, there we go. Desperately Dreaming Dexter. I love this one. All right, so this is one of our newer categories. So our favorite serial killer, Dexter Morgan, just returned for a new season in New Blood. Now, if in reality, there was a serial killer who only targeted the worst, most violent criminals on earth, and there was no collateral damage to anyone else, and they'd all been properly vetted, would you be okay? I mean, I'm talking real life as it is today. Would you be okay with a guy like Dexter killing them on his table and disposing of the bodies? Dexter, as he says, taking out the trash.
No.
Hmm?
No, I can't go along with that. I don't think he could be that I don't think he could avoid collateral damage. I don't see how that could happen.
But that's not the question. I said, if there was no collateral damage, there's no collateral damage, there's none, would you be okay with it?
Well, in that case, it's strictly theoretical, but so, okay, yeah, I would be.
All right, all right. That's all right. All right. Criminals beware. Al's on the case. All right, next we're up. Our next section is pick your poison. I got 3 options for you. You got A, B, or C. I'm not going to tell you what the choices are. You just got to pick a letter.
C.
C. What else we got this time? All right, rejection letter. Well, which I think you were just talking about that, so it is timely. So as writers, we propose a story, a novel, what have you, and unless you self-publish, which is increasingly common these days, you have to submit your idea to a publisher. Now, even some of the biggest authors ever, such as Stephen King, J.K. Rowling, even John Kennedy Toole's Confederacy of Dunces, and even Chicken Soup for the Soul, were all initially rejected. There are a lot of less experienced and even accomplished authors out there who, to different degrees, struggle with rejection. So talk to me about rejection as part of the writing business.
Well, you can't avoid it. Might as well, and I hesitate to say embrace it, but you might as well try to learn about it. And this is, by the way, one thing that my opera career helped me with. I auditioned for German theatrical agents. There's nothing a literary agent can do to scare me. Yeah. Some of those the German agents were absolutely savage. And
what's the worst thing they ever said to you?
Basically, go home and get a job, but they really embroidered on the theme.
That's one way to put it. They embroidered on the theme. Okay, that's your tagline. That's it. All right. So now we're going to give you. We're almost at the end, so we're going to give you some truth serum. All right. I'm going to ask you 10 questions, and you answer quickly. You ready?
Ready.
All right. Favorite flavored ice cream?
Coffee.
Pineapple on pizza. Yay or nay?
Nay.
Okay. Bucket list destination anywhere in the world.
Hawaii again.
That's right. Oh, all right. We're going to get back to that. Okay. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
X-ray vision.
X-ray. I like that one. Okay. Okay. We talked about if you play a musical instrument. Do you try the oboe, but do you actually play one?
I don't play, no.
If you could, what would it be?
Trumpet.
Trumpet. Ooh, I was actually a trumpet player in my youth. Not a great one, but I did play. All right. You can only have one. Wealth or friendship?
Friendship.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
You can see a live performance, sports, theater, music, whatever, any seat, any venue. Specifically, what's your choice?
Mets and Yankees World Series.
Which arena? Which stadium?
Yankee.
All right, there you go. Right answer. Okay. All right, now, last one. So we have, throughout your lifetime, everyone has a few of those where were you then moments. What was the most impactful where were you then moment for you?
The Kennedy assassination, JFK.
Right.
I was in 5th grade. My school had just acquired the ultimate in educational technology, a television set. And my class happened to have the television set that day. And I remember we were tuned into an educational channel that didn't have a news operation at all. And some guy with his sleeves rolled up and his tie down came on and, very nervously announced what had happened.
So even today, even after, 9/11 and others, that's the one that's still just burned in you forever.
Yeah, probably because I was 10,
right,
and impressionable.
For sure. All right. So now we're going to take a few questions. I'm not seeing it in the chat box right now, but I did want to go back. I meant to ask before, so we'll do it now. So talk to me about, going back to your to Diana. So you've done a bunch of mysteries in Hawaii. So talk to me about Hawaii. Why Hawaii? Why Hawaii? How many times have you written her there? What's going on over there?
Well, my brother Fred lives there. He was in the Coast Guard. In 1994, he was sent to Hawaii for a 3-year hitch. And he and his wife had just arrived when Thanksgiving came around. And I thought I'd do my family duty and go spend Thanksgiving with them. I had never had any interest in Hawaii because I just had the impression it was like Florida, which has never interested me either. But I went and I loved it the way I never loved any other place. I've been back probably a dozen times.
Wow.
My favorite island is the Big Island. And when I started writing about Diana, I decided I had to get her there. And in one of my novels that are still unpublished, I send her to the Big Island with a client who neglects to mention that some very nasty people are after him. And some of the characters she meets there are the ones I spun off into the Hawaii series.
Oh, very cool. So, I've been to Hawaii myself. I went on my honeymoon, but I did not get to the Big Island. So what is it about the Big Island that you like so much?
There's everything. You can get everything there. You can go to the beach, and the same day you can ski on snow on the top of Mauna Kea.
Can you really? I didn't know that.
I'm partial to the rainforest side of the island, Hilo side, but it's all great.
Wow. So when you go, do you typically, is your brother still out there?
He was there for 3 years. He went back for another 3-year hitch somewhat later, and he retired there. So he's still there.
So do you typically go and hang out with him when you're there?
I hang out with him and his family, with his wife and his 2 sons, and then I go off to the Big Island. He's retired from the Coast Guard. He's still working for the federal government,
but he's not. So he's not on the Big Island.
No, he's on Oahu, north of Honolulu.
Got it. Okay. All right. Well, all right. So we got a couple of questions came in for you. All right. So one, you have another recurring character, Miss Windsor, who is about as opposite to Diana as you can get. How does that work?
Miss Windsor, Beatrice Windsor, directed the Newark Public Library. Well, she was the actual director from 1929 to 1942, but she basically ran the place from the late 1890s all the way forward, because the director at the time, John Cottondale, often left her in charge for extended periods while he went off lecturing and consulting and conferring. Anyway, she was an incredible character. Basically, all I have to do is quote from her memos, and it's such great material. The assistant director I worked for at Newark was obsessed with her, and he compiled huge binders of her memos, so 4 single space type pages on how to paste a label into a book. Throughout the Depression years, she had absolute discretion to pay people what she thought they were worth, to hire, fire. I think she could have had someone summarily executed if she had chosen to. But I have several. These are basic whodunits, and she solves the case.
And who is the Miss Wind? Like what? So in your stories, she is a librarian also. She's
the librarian, the librarian, which is in today's terms would be the director. And
wait, so you've got so just so I understand correctly, and for those who are watching, so you have, let's say, a high class or a high paid sex worker and a tough as nails authoritarian librarian.
Yep.
And they solve crime.
They both, in their own ways, solve crime. Yes.
I mean, it's your classic buddy cop movie.
Well, there's a chronological issue there.
Yeah, I know. I'm just kidding. All right, so we have one here. Okay, so how many Diana stories are short stories? How many are novelettes? And novellas, novels? Like, what's the breakdown?
Okay. The vast majority are short stories, ranging from the shortest is about 400 words, up to about let's see, up to about 12,000. Those would all qualify as short stories. I have a novella called The Same Mistake Twice, which is 31,000 words. That was published in 2013 by Untreed Reads, the ebook publisher. And then I have the 5 novels that are all in the 60 to 80,000 words.
Gotcha. Okay. So we got one more question. So has your role as RHP, I'm not sure what that means, RHP editor impacted your writing? If so, how?
Rockin' a hard place. Yeah, it's a magazine that concentrates on noir, crime fiction shading into literary fiction. I had a story, a Diana story in the very first issue called Chlorine. And after that, Roger Noakes and Jay Bukowski invited me to come on as a contributing editor, and I did, and it's been a real eye-opener. Has it affected my writing? Probably. It would be difficult to pin down, to define exactly how it's affected my writing, but reading so many stories that are, between the ones we publish and the ones we reject, a wide range of success involved in them, seeing what works, what doesn't work. Undoubtedly, it has affected my writing.
So more of through osmosis, really, than anything else.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. All right, folks, that was great. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my screen, and Al's going to share with us. So bear with me for a second. Hopefully I do this right. Sometimes I screw it up. Sometimes I don't. Okay. All right. So Big Al, what are we looking at here?
That is the most recent of my Hawaii novels, Blood Like Rain, featuring Detective Errol Coutinho, who is one of the characters that Diana meets in that novel I mentioned that is still unpublished. That one's called Tentacles, but you don't look for it because it's not out. I've also invented some supporting characters for him, a young uniformed officer named Jenny Freitas. By the way, I don't have copies yet, but Jenny Freitas is in a story called The Conversation Killer that is in Alfred Hitchcock Mystery Magazine, the July-August issue that just was released today.
All right, very good.
There's also a lawyer, a criminal defense attorney named Agnes Rodriguez. You might notice these are all Portuguese names: Coutinho, Freitas, Rodriguez with an S on the end. That's very authentic in Hawaii because of the thousands of laborers who were imported from the Madeira Islands and the Azores back in the 19th century.
All right, very cool. Well, it's a great looking cover, and it sounds like a great book, and I'll encourage everyone to check it out. So beautiful cover and great title, by the way. All right, so as for me, if you love private eye fiction with a little bit of a futuristic twist, such as the In Death series by J.D. Robb, I'll encourage you to check out my sci-fi mystery series featuring hard-boiled private detective Angela Hardwick and her protege Eric Whistler. For the Hardwick series, think part Blade Runner, part Doctor Who, part Philip Marlowe. The first 2 books are Crackle and Fire, and then Fractured Lives. Each book is a standalone mystery, so you can read them in any order. Hardwick is, she's about 34, 35 years old. She's been at this for about a dozen years or so. Whistler is sort of a young puppy dog kind of a kid who's trying to come along and very eager to please as he's learning the ropes. And Hardwick has a bunch of recurring characters who pop in. She's got a cab driver, a dock worker, a police detective who comes in, a contractor and a nurse, and they all kind of pop in and out of the various novels to kind of help her out with her various mysteries. Both the books are available on Amazon and published by Crazy 8 Press. And if you want a signed copy, you can order them from me, or you can pick one up, as I'll be doing a few more conventions and readings throughout the year. And I'm excited to say that the third book in the series, which I'll be announcing very soon, will be out in September. All right, so that's all. That's our show. I want to thank Al for coming by for a great hour. I want to thank everyone who's watching at home. I'm your host, Russ Colchamiro, and I'll see you all next week. Take care now. All right, good to see everyone.